switching subject, you'll all be able to bring to mind, whether you're listening or watching, various woke policies. But the persistent question is, where does the funding come from? And Sandy is going to be dealing with some of this right now.
Thank you, Charles. Yes, I mean, I've been looking into this, as have others, and I'll mention them later on because they have to be credited for some of this research. But it would seem that the UK, our taxpayer, is funding some of the woke NGOs and charities that are literally, I mean, I'm looking at it as ideological subversion. I mean, it's you can't describe it as anything less. So one of the main NGOs in this is the UK Research and Innovation, and underneath them are 9 other NGOs and charities that they feed into and are receiving government funding and charitable funding. But it's all a little bit woolly. We know that it is taxpayer funding, but and to how much is charitable funding, we're not sure. But certainly things like the Arts Council of England and Soho Theatre, the funding level of the Arts Council England distributes around 445 million a year, with Soho Theatre receiving 2 million. They put on theatre performances, like 52 monologues for young transsexuals. And it shows them urging the audience members to check their privilege at the door. This is quite controversial, really. And then you've got academic and cultural research, 811,000 for a study on the sustainability of Romani Gypsy lifestyle, 1.5 million for research into white centricity of folk music, multiple other grants such as coloniality studies and feminist rituals, witches casting spells, and porcelain as a critique of white supremacy. Those are all flagged for taxpayer funding. And we've got to look at this, and I've got a slide here of the it's diversity, equity, and inclusion. Of course, is all part of the mix, and they've got these sort of memes of how they feel that they need to promote all this stuff, and it's very niche. I mean, I'm going to go into how niche it is, and it gets very, very niche, I can assure you. Now we're looking at this one, which is the gay porn. It's the Europe that gay porn built, 1945 to 2000. Now, this man, he's got a research project. He received funding from the Arts and Humanities Research Council, which is under the UK Research Council, and he got funding for nearly £1 million. It's £841,830. And he says, I'm a queer cultural theorist of the body. My research draws from queer studies, media studies, visual culture, and cultural studies to investigate the ways in which the queer body has been produced, policed, and contested as a political site of creative and effective sexual world-making in modern and contemporary cultures. Now, if that isn't a bit of a word salad, I don't know what is. But he received a heck of a lot of money to go and study this in Holland. He's currently the honorary professor in art history and visual culture at the University of Exeter, and Professor of Gender Studies and Chair of Sex Media and Sex Cultures at Linköping University in Sweden. And his monograph is Bareback Porn, Porous Masculinities, Queer Futures, and the Ethics of Gay pig masculinities, whatever that is. I've no idea, and I don't really want to know, to be honest. So all of this is coming out of funding. And do the British taxpayers know about this? And would they agree with it if they did? And they've got things like pregnant men and international exploration of trans male. This academic project, listed via the UK's research councils, explores how laws and policies affect the health and needs and experiences of trans men, especially around pregnancy, healthcare interactions, and reproductive decisions. So we're looking at a lot of money here that's sloshing around, and those those NGOs that are underneath the UK Research Institute, apparently it's about 900,000 of them, 900 million is going into these projects. Now, we've also got the Galatea Theatre production, which was John Lilly's play in LBGTQ focused performance, which was, again, it was a Arts Council funded project, the Diverse Solariums, and it's centering on marginalized communities in the contemporary performance of early modern plays, focusing on Shakespeare being a little bit too white and they said pale and male, I think they called it. And this is what the Emma Franklin, she was the director of Galatea. She says, as LGBTQ people, our histories are often erased or confounded to fit the narrative of cis-normalized patriarchal society. A play like Galatea should radically alter our attitude towards queer identity today. Now, this isn't designed to trans bash or gay bash, but we have to look at how niche this is and how much people would actually agree to all this. Now, somebody who's doing a lot of research into this is a lady called Charlotte Gill. Now, I'm going to mention her because she has done a big deep dive into it. Do go to her Substack and support her. And she says there's lots of them. The charities are the main drivers of open borders. There's lots of them, and they're incestuous and self-perpetuating. Private and state funds are problems. Some charities end up directly receiving taxpayer funding, e.g. being funded by taxpayer-funded charities. It's a racket. And I think this really doesn't deserve scrutiny. We've got also another Substacker is Lewis Blackpool, and he's doing a big deep dive. He's done lots of FOIs into things like the Paul Hamlin Foundation, which is a taxpayer funding, and they sort of mingle with Hope Not Hate. And he's put in loads of FOIs into who is funding the Home Office bringing in of migrants, and I think that's really worth looking at. He's doing a lot of work, and I'd like to cite him as well because he's spending a lot of time doing that. And he's looked and he's found all these different. If we get the next slide, he's found. I think it's about 14 different charities that are funding the whole migration project, they all need scrutinising and looking at. Yeah. And yes, we're looking at the UN Refugee Agency, the Migrant Help, and Cities of Sanctuary. And I'm not saying that migrants shouldn't get help; they should. But at the moment, it's volume and speed that's coming through, and we have to look at this ideological subversion that's going on, because they all both UKRI and Sanctuary Cities. They use our theory of change, and it's a change agent sort of model. And what I really would like to link it up to is the fact that, this all goes back to the Frankfurt School and the Jewish intellectuals who made the 1960s. And I'd like to quote Yuri Bezmenov, who was the most amazing guy. I don't think he's not alive anymore. But anyway, he was a former KGB spy, but he spoke lots of words of wisdom and also warning. Ideological subversions are a process which is legitimate, open and overt. If I could have that up again, that slide. It takes 15 to 20 years to demoralize a nation. The important thing is to keep them in a state of ignorance. Once society is demoralized, facts no longer matter to them. And I have to agree with him. And, are we paying for our own demise? And I think it needs scrutiny, definitely.
Absolutely right, Sandy, it does. And thank you very much for that. Patrick, if I may, just invite you to comment quickly, particularly given the remarks of Yuri Bezmenov quoted there.
Well, I mean, that's a famous viral video that he did on television in the early 1980s, I think, like that. I think it's important to point out Yuri Bezmenov also he did anti-Soviet propaganda for the CIA. So you also have to look at it in that context, is what he said. It's been repurposed in today's, I guess, alternative media milieu as anti-globalist or something like that. But the work he did with the Canadian government via the CIA, and for the CIA exfiltrated him, by the way, from the Soviet Union as a, quote, defector. But he did a lot of things for America in this sort of service of propaganda. That was more or less his career function for a long time, as well as being a member of the John Birch Society. So just pointing that out just to contextualize him and the statements he's making at the time.
Thanks, Patrick. Yeah, point very much worth making. And also, if anyone hasn't seen any of the interview that Bezmenov did give, it's widely available on a lot of the video platforms. So do look that up. Now,